And we welcome everyone into another edition of Back Your Play with Q. As always, I'm your host, Rich Quiñones, our good friend Lloyd Vance, host of Lloyd Vance's Insider Football. Kind enough to join us. He does a great job every Monday, 8 to 9, and of course joins me not only during the week on Q, but of course on BYP. Want to remind everyone, as always, we are powered by our wonderful friends over at Fresh Roasted Coffee. You guys have been phenomenal checking out the website, getting a little coffee. You guys know, as always, I've got my fresh roasted cup. I got the little dark roast, little Colombian mixed as well before we hit the air. And while we're on the air, promo code BYP20. Get social with us as well on the YouTube channel, as well as XIG and TikTok Rich Q on the mic as we welcome in our good friend Lloyd Vance. And I will say this, I feel as though we were just talking preseason football, or we just went through the draft, OTAs. Is it me, or does the NFL season fly by?
Yeah, it's crazy, Q. It's a long wait, but then once it starts going, man, the storylines and everything, and the train starts moving, and the season gets rolling, and this one's been a roller coaster. It's pretty wide open around the league, and I always say, let's get to Halloween, and then we'll really know who the true contenders are. Well, that's coming this weekend.
Yeah, and as always, a reminder, we are on our very good friends of New York 48 WWON every Saturday and Sunday, 11 to 12, BYP for entertainment purposes. Only gambling problem, 1-800-GAMBLER. I know, you mentioned when we get to Halloween, I know, my Giants are pretty much always out of it by Halloween, right? I mean, it's almost like a rite of passage, death taxes and the Giants being out of it by Halloween. We'll go through the league in a little bit, but as I alluded to, what we do is we break down these games from A to Z. Thursday night football, a little resurgent with the Ravens, even though they are 2-6 right now, or pardon me, 2-5. You called it. You looked at the schedule, the way the AFC North could potentially play out, and you said, look at the Ravens, don't discount the Ravens because of the soft schedule. All they need to do is to get back to 500. They're going to have an opportunity Thursday night football. Now, obviously, when we are on Saturday and Sunday, we still want to give our thoughts on Thursday night football against Miami at home. Baltimore's laying 7.5, but the Ravens have very winnable games. But Miami finally woke up and got a win last week, and they snapped their 3-game slide over a very fugazi Atlanta Falcons squad. But the Ravens, to me, as you mentioned, don't dismiss them.
Yeah, Q, this is their opportunity. And Huntley came in last week. That was a huge win for them. A lot of people kind of counted them out. And Huntley gave them that spark. And you started seeing, Derrick Henry running the football, and are getting their guys back healthy. That's the big thing for Zach Orr's defense. And Lamar Jackson, more than anything. He's going to play this week. His hamstring injury is healed up. He's 100% full participant in practice, and I expect him out there handing the ball to Henry, getting the ball down the field to Zay Flowers. And that defense, they're going to be getting after Tua. Tua had a great week last week, but I expect the defense to kind of force him to make some mistakes. And, he's been up and down all season, so I figured bad Tua is going to show up. Ravens should win this one, even though it's on the road. But I'm surprised they're such a heavy favorite at 7.5. That's a lot of points to give. Maybe they win it on a loop field goal or something like that. But yeah, I think the Ravens win this one on the money line.
Yeah, and again, right now, hamstring wise, didn't have an injury designation for tonight, whether he goes or not. I am curious, why go out and get Cooper Rush and have him as the third string quarterback, and they're giving Tyler Huntley the snaps to start in place of Lamar Jackson?
Yeah, well, Huntley, he performed very well, and he's a guy that he filled in as an alternate at the Pro Bowl a couple of years ago because he filled in for Lamar at the end of the season when he couldn't go, and he's a solid veteran backup, and he's not as fast as Lamar Jackson, but he can do a lot of the dual threat plays, and last week he threw for over 70%, so he's pinpoint, led the team, did not turn the football over, and they believe in him.
The Bears, Sunday night, 1:00 slate. The Bears, who got humbled a little bit, right? I mean, this is, we always kind of talk about coming back down early, got humbled by the team we just documented, the Baltimore Ravens. They've got Cincinnati now. It's kind of back-to-back road games. Well, it is back-to-back AFC North opponents. Cincinnati had a horrible loss. We love the Jets outright. I told you, money line on the Jets, points, money line, called it 39-38. They beat Cincinnati last week in a wild game, going for two late, getting their first win of the season, mind you. The Bears are favored 2.5 on the road. Chicago is a road 2.5 point favorite. The total is pretty high, 51.5. But Cincinnati, they had an opportunity to kind of take hold of that division, or at least make it interesting, and they had that bad loss.
And it was a situation where, I think they got surprised and kind of looked past the Jets losing 39-38, and it was a competitive game. Key thing for the Bengals is Joe Flacco going to be able to play in this game. He has a shoulder situation he's dealing with, and maybe Jake Browning. If Browning plays in this game, it's definitely going to lean more towards the Bears. And we know about Browning's struggles in terms of interceptions and turnovers. Uh, I think that, though, Flacco is going to gut it out and give it a go, and you'll see Trace Brown have a timely running, and then he'll get the ball down the field to Jamar Chase, who Flacco really has they have a good connection there. So the Bears, they're just not real, Q. I just don't believe in them, even though they're, 4-2 or so, or 4-3. They're just too inconsistent. We'll see what they can do. I'm going to go with, I'm going to go with the Bengals as a home dog in this one.
Yeah, listen, they had a nice 4-game winning streak, but we also talked about who they beat in that streak. Now, granted, Commanders banged up, Dallas gives up a lot of points, but then the Raiders and the Saints stink, and then they have an opportunity to really make their fan base believe by winning their fifth straight on the road against Baltimore, and they did not even show up. I mean, that game was not competitive, and you can look at the smoke and mirrors number by Caleb Williams, had a bad pick, running around, even though he sacked one time. The other thing is, it's just like every other team in the NFL. They can't run the football. Baltimore has a $177, a bunch of running back by committee, right? And then the Bears only rush for 96 yards, and that's not going to get it done. So I agree with you. I don't like the Bears. I haven't liked the Bears in a very, very long time. Yes, do I believe maybe they've turned the corner a little bit, but we're talking now separation Sunday, as we like to say, right? The rubber meets the road, not a playoff team. Now, the two teams coming up next, this should be a hell of a game. I would have loved to have this in a 4:05, 4:25, hell, even an 8 o'clock window. Minnesota and the Lions. And I know, listen, Minnesota is not a playoff team. I'm not suggesting that. But it would have been interesting to see what they could have done if they figured out a way to get past the Eagles. And then a game against the Chargers got away so fast. Wentz shouldn't have been out there. He's not blaming anyone, but he got really banged up. I expected more from Minnesota, and I bring it up because I believe that they would have been better off paying Sam Darnold. It is what it is. But the team to focus on are the Detroit Lions. And right now, just kind of quietly going about their business, laying 8.5 at home, 48.5. The Lions are undefeated at home, and now they sit with a very solid mark of 6-2.
Yes, Q, and they're coming off a bye, so they're rested. And a big thing was that secondary branch, and the rest of those guys kind of banged up. They're going to be getting a lot of their players back, and I expect, the Lions, as long as Goff is not turning the football over, they're going to lean on Gibbs. They're going to throw it to Amon-Ra St. Brown, and then that defense, which is improving. They just gave Hutchinson all that money. He's going to be chasing around J.J. McCarthy, his old teammate from Michigan, and I expect him to get a lot of pressure on him, and that'll lead to some turnovers and some short field. So, yes, I think the Lions at home, extremely dangerous on that turf. Expect, as I said, a lot of Gibbs in this one. I expect them to win and cover that number.
Yeah, just for the listening audience, Hutchinson, 4-year, $180 million contract extension that was announced on Wednesday. 141 million of that guaranteed. That's a hell of a job by his agent, Mike McCartney. Look, he's a great player coming back from that injury. And this kid, I mean, this kid's 25, 26. He's got another 10 years left, right? So obviously Detroit shoring up their core and their pieces. A lot of bank for the dollar there, but certainly worth it. And I do like, as you do, the Lions in the spot. I think they roll the Vikings, to be quite honest with you. Panthers and the Packers. So the Panthers, again, you can't figure them out, right? They have a nice 3-game winning streak. They don't even show up against the Buffalo Bills. And then Green Bay. And look, here's another game that we pretty much talked about. Not a believer in Pittsburgh. We kind of saw them as fraudulent against Green Bay. The Packers win at 35-25. They put up a lot of points, a lot of yardage. Jordan Love, just absolutely brilliant. 360 yards, 3 touchdowns, wasn't even touched. They ran the ball for just under a touch of 100 yards. Right now, the Packers feeling pretty good about themselves, and they were able to kind of, work past that just nasty, yucky tie they had with Dallas about a month ago. But they're rolling right now.
Yeah, Halfley's defense is really starting to come together for them. Q. They're gelling. They have Micah Parsons there, leads the NFL in pressures with 33. And then you're getting Gary on the other side making some plays. And then you talk about that offense with Jordan Love. They woke up in the second half down 16-7. They just exploded on the Steelers. This is a conference game, so they want to win this one, get that momentum going, as you were saying, Q. They don't want to be that inconsistent team that lost to Cleveland earlier. So I expect Green Bay to come out here and put up some good points. They have Watson now back at the receiver position. That's going to be a big thing for them to open up the field. And you cannot forget about them and not talk about Tucker Kraft, their tight end. He's really playing very well. I expect him to have a good big game against the Panthers. I expect Green Bay to win this one. That's a big number, though, that 13 and a half. It may be a situation where there's a backdoor cover. A lot of times they let teams get back, some garbage touchdowns, as we call it at the end. So watch for that. But I expect Green Bay to win this one.
Little lower touch of the total, 44 and a half. I think Love's going to have another multi-touchdown game. The Chargers and the Titans are a very bad football team. The Chargers are laying 9.5. I think this is going to get bet up to about 10, 10.5. Total is 43.5. But, you just can't look. I know they had to win against Minnesota. They got humbled against the Colts. I can't figure out the Chargers at all. I thought this was a team that was poised for a deep playoff run. Now, granted, they're still 5-3, second in the AFC West, but you look at their schedule after the Titans, they have the Steelers, Jacksonville, the Raiders, winnable games until they meet the Eagles, the Chiefs, the Cowboys. Who knows where the Texans are going to be out? Maybe spoilers, and then Denver. So here's an opportunity for them to kind of get to 7-3, 8-3, and feel pretty good about their their positioning come playoff time.
Yeah, Q, at midpoint of the season, so they got to get that consistency, and you start seeing the best teams start making that playoff push as we move into November, December, and this situation where they have a bad team in front of them, as you said, we know that Callahan got fired and Mike McCoy's there trying to hold this thing together, but Ward's just being harassed early and often on the field, and the Chargers got to take care of business. Herbert's put up a lot of big numbers this season, leading the NFL in yards, and he's up there in touchdowns as well. And they may have found something with Gats in the second. So, it's up their defense to get some turnovers. But I do expect the Chargers to win this one on the road. You got to beware the home dog, but I still think that the Titans are in rebuilding mode. So I think Chargers win this one.
Chargers 3-4-1 against the spread this season. Titans 2-6 against the spread this season. The over, you're looking at 4-4 over their last 8. It's hit, so they can score. Here's interesting, right? The Titans are 0-3 against the spread at home this season. I think Justin Herbert's going to have a huge, huge game, right? I mean, the question is, can you get over the hump, right? At the end of the day, can you get over the hump? I mean, right now he's leading the league in NFL passing with over 2,100 yards, 16 touchdowns, but 7 picks. It's fourth most in the league. And, the one thing is he's thrown an interception in 2 straight games, 5 of his last 6. He's got to settle down a little bit, but I think he's poised to have that kind of breakout because, look, the Titans give up a lot of yardage, a lot of chunk plays, a lot of passing yards, and a lot of points.
Yeah, he should get right in this one. But as you said, it's all about can they catch KC in Denver? It's all about that divisional fight.
All right, let's keep it rolling. Atlanta and New England. I mean, don't look now. Atlanta showed that they're frauds, but how about the Patriots? I mean, let me ask you this. Are the Patriots a legit contender coming out of the AFC? Are they more of Washington last year where, young quarterback, here we go, burst onto the scene and they arrived a little early?
No, Q, they're a contender. They lead the AFC East, and you saw them beat the Bills on Sunday Night Football a couple weeks ago, and that announced to everybody this team is serious, and they must believe they are as well because you saw Vrabel and the management team there, Elliott Wolf. They traded 2 of their guys this week. They sent Duggar to the Pittsburgh Steelers, White to the Niners, so they believe they have the pieces already in place for this team to ascend now, and There is some health issues in terms of Stevenson, the running back, so we'll have to watch that. But Drake May's playing at such a high level, and that defense is really gelling underneath Vrabel. So, yeah, I believe they're the real deal. And look, the Falcons, we're not even sure Penix is going to play in this game. And if it's Kirk Cousins, who you and I talked about earlier, he's just terrible. And I can't see Falcons coming in there. We talked about their inconsistent nature from their effort last week. I think New England wins this one and covers the number.
Yeah, New England, we'll get to them in a moment, but Atlanta, they're optimistic Penix will return for this game, but I don't really think it matters. I mean, Atlanta kind of showed you who they really were last week. And you look at Drake May, the comparison, the comp. I saw that Jeff Albright basically called him a younger Josh Allen. Listen, I mean, it's turning out that draft pick, right? I think some people kind of looked at it and said, third overall draft pick. I don't know about this, but we always talk about second year quarterbacks. The game starts to slow down a little bit. Listen, he's crushed his numbers already from his rookie season, and we're only 8 games in.
Yeah, and McDaniel's done a nice job with him. A lot of people had some question marks with him coming out of North Carolina, and they've surrounded him with some good pieces. I know Will Campbell's battling that offensive lineman that they got in the first round, and then they have Diggs and they have Hooper at the tight end position. So they have some pieces there, and yeah, they're a dangerous team. I'm interested to see the next time they play Buffalo when these two lock horns.
5.5, so they got the hook there. I do like the Patriots in this spot. As for that game against Buffalo, that'll be in mid-December, December 14th, at home, CVS window, 1 o'clock start in that one. All right, let's keep cruising along with these 1 o'clock tilt. The 49ers against my Giants. Giants 2-6, albeit 2-1 at home. The 49ers are 2.5-point favorites on the road. Look, I mean, the Giants, I was waiting last week and I said to you, or last week, how are they going to respond after that devastating loss against the Broncos? Were they going to hang around? And let's just call for what it is. The officiating was just horrible in that game against the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, period. Period stop. The tush push play. I think now the best thing to come out of that, to be quite honest with you, is they're going to have to really review it, because my whole argument has been it's if you're saying it's subjective, then you really can't have the play. You really can't have that play in football. And if I can tush push my way 4 straight times to the goal line and have linemen or tight ends or backs kind of push me and keep my momentum going, what's the difference on a short yardage situation? Because they were pushing Hurts. He was, well, at that moment, Hurts was basically using his legs, forward progress, and Thibodeau basically clearly ripped the ball out of his hands. Early on, it definitely changed the complexion of the game. I'm not going to suggest the Giants would have won, but then you look at some of the OPI, some of the pass interference, very questionable. Where are you after Sunday's game where you look at the tush push? Are you now kind of like, all right, NFL's got to get rid of this?
Yeah, Q, I have serious fatigue from that. And you and I talked about it earlier in the season when they didn't vote it down. We were actually surprised coming out of the spring meetings when they said, okay, it's going to live another season. And you can see a lot of other teams are like, okay, enough's enough. Because, yeah, the Eagles, I'm not saying they're getting preferential calls with it, but it seems other teams are getting called for false starts and other things in terms of that play. And it's a scrum. It's really not true football. And one older guy that I talked to around the league, he was like, yeah, they're just diving at the legs. It's really something. The Eagles have perfected it, but it's dangerous and it shouldn't be in the game. So yeah, I think it's going to be voted out next season. Yeah, it can live for one more year, and I'm sure the Eagles and Sirianni are going to use it to its advantage this season. But yeah, when it goes, I'll be happy.
I think a lot of teams will be very happy. It was just a poorly officiated game. And, the Giants, there's with the trade deadline coming up, there's a lot of talk. Are they going to, move Singletary? They're going to try to trade Thibodeau. What's going on with Lawrence? He hasn't really provided them anything. And then you saw the Eagles, you see it on the bottom ticker right now. They turn around and the Eagles trade Michi to the Jets for Michael Carter. So they knew they had to shore up that secondary. I mean, listen, that is a major issue, right? So they went out, a little cornerback help, Michael Carter, 2027, seventh round pick from the Jets for wide receiver John Mitchie, and a 2027 sixth round pick. You got two very good young standout corners in Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, but you've struggled to get that third contributor, right? I mean, Adoree Jackson's not good. Ringo, mixed results, right? And these guys have been banged up. So I think you had to go out and make a move. So the Eagles decided, let's solidify that secondary a little more.
Yes, and Howie Roseman, you know him. He's always going to look to make trades and improve that roster. Uh, they got Jacorian Bennett earlier from the Raiders at that same corner position.
Yep. In August.
Ringo, Bennett, Jackson, they just have not been the answer. They let Slay walk to the Steelers, and they just have not replaced them. DeJean and Mitchell have done a nice job in their development, but I think DeJean will be better on the inside, and they're talking about maybe moving to the outside with Carter coming over, who's more of a nickel as well. So, they'll have some moving pieces in there, and Fangio will work with them, but yeah, we'll see if this trade works out, but they definitely needed them.
49ers laying 2.5. The Giants are at home. They've been giving up a lot of points, aside from the win they had against the Eagles 34-17, limited the Eagles in their offense, especially in the second half. No Scadaboo. That's a major loss for the Giants. Running back was playing really well. Unfortunate injury. You really feel bad for the kid because he basically injected a juice and life and an energy at him and Jackson Dart. So now you're going to see Tracy. You're going to see Singletary. I think they're going to go two tight end set. I like what I'm seeing from Jackson Dart. I really do. I just think they need to kind of I wasn't really a fan of having him in the game at 38-20 late in the game, and you're having these design rollouts and these runs. I just wasn't a fan of it because that kid's going to get hurt. But I don't know if the Giants defensively, their run defense also has been suspect. I mean, the Philadelphia Eagles ran up, down, all
276 yards.
276. And Saquon set the tone early with the long touchdown run. So I just don't know if the Giants can contain that rushing attack by the 49ers.
Yeah, and Christian McCaffrey had an off week last week. He rushed for under, I think, 30 yards in the game. So he's going to be fired up to play in this one. Key thing, obviously, is Brock Purdy and that toe injury. Is he going to be able to go, or is it going to be Mac Jones? The Niners' offensive line, that's going to be the battle. Can they stop Burns? Can they top Thibodeau, Lawrence, the rest of that defensive line? So it's going to be fun to watch there. Been back and forth on this game. I think the Niners are going to somehow gut this thing out. They're very beat up, though, on defense, Q.
Yeah.
And I think that Dart will make his plays here and there. But the Niners have a new kicker, Pinheiro. I think Pinheiro kicks the game winner in this one.
What else is new? Getting beat by a field goal late. The offensive line has been very shaky in pass protection for the Giants. Dart has been sacked 11 times over the last 3 games. Even though San Francisco is lacking depth in that area, that is certainly something to watch. This is, I hate to say it, it's my look but don't touch game. I can't trust the Giants. And I certainly, I'm a big believer in Mac Jones, but, 2.5, I would probably lean towards the 49ers, but I'm not touching this game. The Colts, the story of the NFL, clearly the Indianapolis Colts, the resurgence of Daniel Jones. We talk about all these MVPs in the quarterbacking position. That offense does not open up without the ground game, and Jonathan Taylor having himself a year, close to 900 yards already, 12 touchdowns on the ground. Jones playing really well, 13 TDs in the air, just a couple picks, well over 2,000 yards. It's amazing. And you can kind of keep going back and forth and back and forth. Daniel Jones, if you look at the overview and you look at the numbers right now, Daniel Jones is on pace for 4,300 yards, 28 touchdowns, and 6 picks. Just to put it in perspective, the most yards he ever threw for was several years ago, 2022, 3,200 yards. Prior to that, it was his rookie season, 3,000. Then the yards dipped and then obviously had some injuries. Last year, just 2,000 yards in 10 games, or 2 years ago with the Giants before they jettisoned. Well, last year they jettisoned and then picked up with Minnesota. But it's just amazing to think the turnaround, the right situation, the right spot, but a good offensive line, a very good ground game. He's only been sacked 9 times. So they're doing a hell of a job keeping him upright. And when he's upright, The kid makes plays, period. But I believe everything starts and ends with that ground attack. They are laying 3.5 on the road against the Steelers.
Yeah, beware the home dog, but this is a prove it game, Q. I know the Steelers are 4-3, but they're a team that's been to the playoffs, and the Colts they're stepping up a little bit in class here. It's going to be interesting to see if they're able to go to Pittsburgh and win this one. I do believe that they're going to be able to do it because Jonathan Taylor, as you said, playing at such a high level, running the football. They'll have him go, and then they'll hit Pittman down the field and Tyler Warren, their tight end, and defensively. Buckner and the rest of those guys can get after people. And the Steelers' offensive line is a little beat up. They've struggled at points. And Aaron Rodgers, at his age, he's not going to be able to get rid of pressure. The Steelers' calling card is defense, highly paid defense, but they're not stopping anybody. So I expect the Colts to win this one and to cover the number.
So this is your week 9. This is your make or break. I mean, you want to see where the Colts are. You want to see if the Colts go and they win this game. Now, mind you, they've got the Falcons and the Chiefs. I mean, are you still not taking them serious right now, or do you believe they're a serious threat?
Well, this is an opportunity. I know they already beat the Rams, but this is a chance to really solidify and say, okay,
No, they lost to the Rams. They lost that game.
Yeah. Well, this is a chance for them to prove that they're true contenders, and this is their chance to kind of step forward and say, okay, we can take care of business on the road. They have their bye coming up, and then they have at Kansas City.
Correct.
So we're really going to find out who they are. But their running game and defense is key for them.
Remember, field goal late, Denver. Remember when they had to re-kick it? They lost to the Rams 27-20. They beat the Raiders Cardinals. Their best win probably was against the Chargers. But you're right. I mean, it is kind of that prove it game. And the Steelers just show me they're frauds. I just don't believe in the Steelers at all. They had a nice little winning streak. All of a sudden now they've kind of come back down to earth. I don't know. Is Rodgers starting to settle in with the Steelers? They believe they he can play another 2-3 years. I really don't know, but I'm just not a fan. I just think the Colts are going to be able to run the football all over the Pittsburgh Steelers. Anytime score for Taylor, definitely grab him over 100 yards plus. I would play his rushing prop, but I like him to cover this number. Denver, my Denver Broncos. How about that? My Denver Broncos. Bo Nix lighting it up all over the place. 44 points. So they've scored 33 and 44 in 2 consecutive weeks. And right now, they are showing you, we can get the offense going a little bit. The defense is going to be able to carry. It's kind of like what those Peyton Manning Colt teams did kind of late in his career when he was coming off, getting very older with the neck after that 50-something odd touchdown season. Then he had the noodle arm. But, man, I'll tell you, Denver playing as good as any team in the NFL. It's crazy. Think about this. The Broncos on the road, are a 1.5-point dog against the Texans, who stink, but yet got to win last week on the 49ers. 1.5-point dog for a team that's averaging over 350-something yards of offense, and they're easily scoring 28 points a game.
Yeah, that was interesting too. When that came out right away, I was like, "What is going on here in terms of that line?"
No one buys it. They don't trust. They don't believe in them.
But
and they got some injuries as well. They got some injuries.
Yeah, and the thing is, I think Denver should be the favorites in this one, particularly because of their defense. Their defense, they lead the NFL with 35 sacks, constant quarterback pressure from Benito and those guys. And then you have the Texans, who have one of the worst offensive lines in football. So I think Denver's going to get a lot of pressure on them. You're seeing J.K. Dobbins kind of have that rebirth at the running back position. He's top 5 in terms of rushing. Bo Nix, as you said, he's efficient getting the ball to Sutton and the rest of those guys. I think Denver wins this one, and yeah, take the points. They're going to bet it as well. I think they're going to win it straight up. But yeah, take the points. And Houston, too inconsistent. They surprised the Niners last week, but Stroud this week will probably have a couple picks.
All right, that's the 1:00 slate of games on a Sunday. We still got some 4:00 games to dip into, some primetime affairs. As always, just want to remind everyone, this is Back Your Play with Q. Lloyd Vance, kind enough to join us. As always, rapid fire look at what's going on in the world of sport from a betting standpoint in season. Obviously, we talk a lot of NFL. We are at the half right here on this edition of BYP, presented and powered by our good friends over at Fresh Roasted Coffee. Don't forget, Play It Again Sports, 2 locations, Mount Laurel and also in Deptford. And as always, we want to remind everyone that Back Your Play is for entertainment purposes only. Don't forget, you can get social with me at Rich Q on Q, TikTok, Rich Q on Mike, and of course, subscribe to the YouTube channel at Rich Quiñones, Lloyd Vance at Lloyd Vance on X. All right, quick timeout. We'll come back on the other side. We got 4 o'clock slate. We got to hit some of these games as well. And then we've got the Sunday and the Monday night affair. 4 teams with bye weeks this weekend coming up. Cleveland, the Jets, the Eagles, and Tampa Bay. And then we'll go around the league, time pending. Quick timeout. We'll come back on the other side. Keep it locked into this edition of Back Your Play. Welcome back, everyone, to Back Your Play with Q. Don't forget, we're also on Amazon, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast, Podchaser, Podcaster. If it's got a pod in it, we are on it. As I mentioned, every Saturday and Sunday, 11 to 12 on NY48 WWO. And all right, let's continue. We'll take a look at these 4 o'clock games right here. The Saints, who are just a bad football team, and you see on that bottom ticker the quarterback that they're going to go with the rest of the way. I mean, show's going to go the rest of the way. Show me something. I mean, it doesn't really matter at this point. The Saints, they're going to be kicking themselves that they really didn't go the right quarterback route when they had an opportunity in this past April's draft. But be that as it may, the largest lead, or I should say the largest spread of the weekend. I know the Packers were 13 and a half. Right now, as it stands, the Rams are 14 and a half. I've seen 15 plus some books. This can get really ugly. The Rams at home, they've been very good at home. They had a game in hand against the Eagles. A field goal wins it. Didn't happen. And then late against the 49ers, McVay got a little too confident going for it late. I mean, they can easily right now, the Rams, be a 7-0 team.
Yeah, well, they're 5-2, and they're right at the top of their division. And this is their opportunity to take care of business. As a bad team coming in there with a rookie quarterback, Tyler Shuck. He's unheralded, and they're probably going to try Kamara and Olave, but there's just not much else. The offensive line is very beat up for them. I expect the Rams defense led by Verse and the rest of those guys to get some pressure on Shuck, and he's probably going to make some bad decisions. And then the Rams are getting back Nakua in this one, so expect Stafford to throw the ball in Nakua, Adams, and they're probably going to put up some serious points. I just don't know about covering 15 points, Q. But once they get rolling at home on that turf, I've seen them do it before. I'll say the Rams win this one and cover it. I know that's a lot of points, but why not cover the points and top the over there?
So they scored 14 at home to open up the season against the Texans. They scored 27 against the Colts. They scored 23 against the Niners. That's a game they should have won. Jacksonville, they poured it on. But again, that game was a London game, right? Technically neutral spot, but that's home designation. I just think the Saints are a very bad football team. I still don't know how in the world the Giants lost to them. The Saints are knocking on the road. They get blown out left and right. I mean, you're talking double digits when we're talking about the spreads here in some of these games. They haven't been favored. They're not a good football team. The Giant game, they were favored. All right, fine. Kind of crazy though. They were down 17-3 in that game and came back. They, turnovers they cause. I just think they're a bad football team. I think this one can get ugly. I think this one's going to be over by the half. I see this game being 35-13. I love the Rams in this spot. Speaking of curious lines, right? A team that I said marinate, cook, they're done. Kansas City on the road. They are laying 2.5. The total is 52.5 against Buffalo. I just look, we know it's going to be national window. Romo, Nance, here we go, 425 CBS. I would have loved to have this prime time. I would love to have this game in December in Orchard Park in Buffalo. But be this as it may, we might be looking at a preview of the AFC Championship. And right now, these teams are feeling pretty good about themselves. Kansas City beat the Lions, blanked the Raiders, and then had a really nice win, even though Mahomes had a couple of bad picks early on. Pulled away from the Commanders 28-7. He still threw for close to 300 yards and 3 touchdown passes. Then you got Buffalo. And everyone's trying to figure out, will the real Buffalo Bills please stand up? Now, again, snapping a slide, you beat up on the Panthers, but now here you go, right? This is where we're going to see where the Bills are. And I also think, to be honest, if Kansas City beats the Bills, I will then say that they are back.
Yeah, Q, that they won 4 of their last 5, and they're playing extremely well, particularly Mahomes. He's getting the ball out
Yep.
of his hands quickly. They have Rashee Rice now, and we talk about all the other playmakers. The defense is going to have to step up in this game. It's going to be interesting to see, can they, Cook ran for so many yards last week, over 200 yards rushing. They got to
Yep.
stop him. And then, of course, you got to stop Josh Allen when he puts the Superman cape on. So been back and forth on this one. My one buddy was saying, well, if it's a postseason, you go with the Chiefs. But since it's a regular season, you think you go with the Bills. But I think I'm going to go with the Chiefs in this one. I just think they have that championship pedigree, Q. Andy Reid, his team is really kind of coming together. And the Bills, there's still some question marks. And particularly on defense, Ed Oliver's not going to play in this game. He's injured.
Do you believe this is a must-win for the Buffalo Bills?
For their reputation, Q, and the fact if they want to host that AFC championship game and get home field advantage, yeah, you got to win these types of games because you don't want to go into Kansas City in a big spot in the playoffs because we've seen what happens in the past.
I think it's going to be a fourth quarter game, to be quite honest. I think this is going to be who has the ball last. And you mentioned Buffalo and what they've been able to do offensively. Kansas City slowly now starting to run the football a lot better. They were averaging 3.3 yards a carry through 4 or 5 weeks. Now they're averaging 4.5. And, it's pretty good when you're able to have a running back be your lead rusher, not your quarterback. And Pacheco now has come out and he surpassed Mahomes, right? Mahomes averaging 6.1 yards a carry, but in a perfect world, you don't want Mahomes scrambling for his life. His numbers are just off the charts, right? I mean, he's played phenomenal football over the last month plus. I mean, probably some of the best football we've seen from Patrick Mahomes in a while. And he had a down year last year, but he's probably going to absolutely surpass the 26 touchdowns. He's right around on pace for about 33, 34. Not to mention, he's already has 4 rushing touchdowns. I want to believe in Buffalo. I need them to win this game. And if Kansas City goes in there and they really wax Buffalo and they beat them up physically, then I have to sit there and say Kansas City's, now you're 6-3. I got to give them their just due. I got to say they're back. And even though they have Denver coming up in the Colts, I'm not going to wait till week 10, 11 to proclaim a team is back. But I did say early on they were cooked. So I just think this is a tough spot for Buffalo. I feel like Kansas City has so much momentum right now. And I think, they got a little juice second half of the season.
Yeah, Kansas City has found that consistency and they're playing extremely well. And then you have the Bills on the other side. They're inconsistent. You think about that effort in Atlanta where they lost that game in such ugly fashion. You're just wondering, do they have enough weapons to help Josh Allen get over the hump? So, yeah, right now I'd have to lean towards the Kansas City Chiefs because they have that leadership and the stars on that team are stepping up.
Commanders, I mean, they're going south, right? They're 3-5. They're in desperation mode. They're at home. This is a really tough spot. Seattle is a very good team. coming off the bye, squashed the Texans. They won 2 straight, including that win over Jacksonville, stubbed their toe against Tampa Bay, where they could have easily won that game, and then obviously couldn't do anything offensively to open up the season. Seattle, I feel as though we're not talking enough about the Seattle Seahawks, and they play really good defense. So they're going to be a road favorite in this one. And if you're Washington, it's desperation time, man. I mean, you look at the way how it's playing out right now in the NFC. If the playoffs were to start today, Green Bay, Philly, Tampa, Seattle, Detroit, the Rams, San Fran, Washington on the outside. I mean, they got to start winning some football games here. They've lost 3 in a row.
Yeah, Q, they're 3-5. And last year everybody kind of they snuck up on people, but every year is different. And Jaden Daniels is injured. I know he may come back from his hamstring in this game, but the Seattle Seahawks can run the football with Charbonnet and Walker, and then Darnold's been very efficient with the football. And you can't forget about JSN. The Commanders are going to have a tough time stopping JSN in this game. The Washington's defense is kind of older, and their offensive line won't probably have Laramie Tunsil. So I'm going to go with Seattle in this one, but I think it may be a close game.
I just like their defense. They get to the quarterback. They force turnovers. They're just a really complete football team. Cardinals and the Cowboys. Right now, it appears that the Cardinals are eyeing Murray to play in this one. Kyler Murray. They are getting 2.5 on the road against the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys can't stop anyone. I can't, for the life of me, I just don't get it. Like every year, their defense is horrible. Like, look, the Giants have a bad defense. Teams in the NFL have bad defenses, but it's so pronounced and prominent. And you always get the sense that Jerry Jones is almost conceding the season 3-4-1. And your whole, hey, we haven't had back-to-back NFC East champions in so many years. Well, let's just pencil in the Philadelphia Eagles right now. Forget about that conversation. But Denver puts up 44. The Cowboys had no answer for the Denver offense. I think the Cowboys are done. I didn't think they were going to be a playoff team, to be quite honest with you. I think this is going to be kind of a goofy high-scoring game, and I know the total set at 53.5. I don't know where I'm at with the Cardinals, but if I had another look but don't touch game, it's this one. But I'll ask you, Dallas at home, laying 2.5.
Well, Dallas, you got to be confident in them when we're playing Jerry World, and they have a lesser team come in. Q, they're like piling up the points. They lead the NFL in scoring with 31 points per game, but they're also allowing 31 points per game. And you talk about their defense, they're just having problems. They just no consistency. You wonder where the pressure is going to come from, and the linebackers aren't what they used to be.
How much do you attribute that to the loss of Micah Parsons?
Some of it, Q, is part of that, but they haven't drafted well, and their defensive line is usually smallish, and they have trouble stopping the run. So, yeah, I think it's part of it, but they have a lot of work to do on that defense. And Matt Eberflus, they bring him in, and I just think he hasn't fixed much there.
They only have 4 takeaways, and they only have 15 sacks.
Yeah, correct, Q. And it's just every stat when you look at that defense is not good. And I talk about their scoring and what they're allowing. When they play good teams, they have a lot of problems. The Cardinals, obviously, they've slipped. They're 2-5, and I think they're on a losing streak as well. So I think Dallas is going to win this one, and they're a paper champion. You know that, Q. They love piling up the stats and looking good, but when the games matter, they always kind of come up small. So I'll go with the Cowboys in this one.
Cardinals pulled the Saints. They started the season off 2-0, and now they've dropped 5 straight. And again, if they have any notion of making the playoffs, I mean, look, it's getting late early for some of these teams, right? New England, Buffalo, we're about to pencil them in. Whoever comes out of the AFC North, you got the Colts running away with that division. AFC West, your guess is as good as mine, aside from the Raiders. NFC East, it's going to be the Philadelphia Eagles. Washington's in trouble. Dallas in trouble. NFC North, again, maybe you get the 2 teams. NFC South, Tampa, Carolina trying to put up a fight. NFC West, here you go. It's besides Arizona, you might get the 3 teams coming out. And I feel as though I ask you this every single solitary week. We'll start with the AFC. Right now, if you're not the biggest believer in the Colts and or Denver, in your estimation, who is the best team right now at this moment playing the best football in the AFC?
I'm going to go with the Indianapolis Colts because they have their defense.
Yeah.
And then you talk about Jonathan Taylor and that running game. And the big question mark obviously was Daniel Jones all along, but he's playing. He's an MVP conversation, Q. And I know a lot of people are like, no, no, Lloyd, but yeah, he is. He is.
Yeah, but when you match him up against some of these other quarterbacks, Jared Goff, Matthew Stafford, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Jalen Hurts, I mean, it's when do we start to have that conversation, right? I feel as though, and it doesn't pain me to say it because the numbers speak for themselves. Now, the passing yards are not really there, right? But if you look at the touchdowns, you look at he's got 5 rushing, 15 passing touchdowns, 20 total touchdowns, 1 pick, and he's accumulated close to 2,000 yards of total offense, 18 and some change with a team. Oh, by the way, that's 6-2 in first place in the NFC East. So I feel as though you can throw a lot of quarterbacks into this stew when we talk about the MVP conversation. But if you're going to throw Jones up there, you certainly have to throw Jalen Hurts.
No, Hurts definitely needs to get his flowers. And a lot of times people forget about him because so successful the Eagles are. And last season, Saquon was running so well, but he's doing a great job passing the football with high efficiency. Uh, he needs to be in the conversation with Mahomes and Allen and the rest of those guys.
Yeah. So I was thinking of this too. You know, when you look at the odds, right? And we always talk about certain games where you have an opportunity. If you're talking Daniel Jones and Jonathan Taylor, you got 2 players that are teammates on the same team. So maybe you're pulling votes, right? You're pulling from each other. But Daniel Jones's success, I think, stems from the fact that they can run the football. Now, Jones has played really well this season. I mean, I'm happy for Daniel Jones. Certainly, comeback player of the year. He might get another monster deal. Good for Daniel Jones. But what I look at what Taylor's doing, his numbers are so gaudy that if you really break it down, he potentially could surpass what we saw last year when we talked about Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley. Jonathan Taylor's on pace for just under 1,900 yards, but you're talking potentially 26, 27 touchdowns.
Yeah, he's having one of those all time seasons, and as long as he stays healthy, yeah, he's going to be over 1,800 yards, and they're talking about he may score 29 touchdowns this season, which would just be absurd and be up there. I think LaDainian Tomlinson has the record, and be chasing that. So Indianapolis, as I said, they got to prove it as a team, being to be the number 1 seed. But right now, he's the engine powering that team, and yeah, you have to say he's in the conversation. Probably the offensive player of the year already.
So Tomlinson had 28, Sean Alexander 27, Priest Holmes 27, Emmett Smith 25, Riggins 24. You had multiple backs. I remember Joe Morris had 21 back in 85 with the Giants. So Raheem Mostert, remember? He had 18 a couple seasons ago at 31 years of age, by the way, which is really staggering. I think the MVP award is so subjective. Like when you look at some of these games, okay, what if Josh Allen goes 30 of 38, 388, 5 touchdowns, and they win by 10 and Mahomes struggles? Then guess what? Allen just leapt Patrick Mahomes in the MVP conversation. If Daniel Jones struggles, but Taylor has a buck 86 and they win, then Taylor just jumped Daniel Jones. Like the other name that we have to throw out there too is Drake May. I mean,
Right.
Drake May has really played well. By the way, the Colts win total was 7.5. They're going to squash that. The same with the Pats. So when you look at this season and some of the quarterbacking play, and then you throw Taylor into the mix, do you believe this could potentially be one of the most competitive seasons we've seen when it comes to that MVP race?
It could be. It could be. And it's good to see that a running back, a non quarterback, is in this conversation. Adrian Peterson had that special season when he beat all the quarterbacks and won the award. And maybe Taylor's having that type of year. And too often the voters, they'll go for the number 1 quarterback. And we'd like to see who's going to be playing best in December. And then we'll kind of say, okay, that's the guy that should get the award.
So let me just give you this. This is updated. Okay. This is per Bet Online. Mahomes has the shortest odds at plus 145. Drake May at plus 325, Josh Allen at plus 385, Jordan Love at plus 1200, then Jonathan Taylor at plus 1400. Daniel Jones nowhere to be found. I didn't even mention Baker Mayfield. He's up there. I don't see Jalen Hurts. We're talking about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, the top 8 shortest odds. And I just, for me, I would grab Taylor at 1,800 a couple of days ago because, again, it opens up this race, right? It really does. That's tremendous, tremendous value. And I think he should be top three in the odds, to be quite honest. I don't believe my point is, I don't see a quarterback who separated himself, right? And yet you look at Taylor and the price suggests it's a long shot. But man, I'll tell you, he goes down. That changed the whole complexion of that Colt offense regardless of the season that Daniel Jones is having. But I just don't see a quarterback that has really stood out head and shoulders above the rest of the season.
Yeah, Q, and that's what it's going to take. It's going to take one of these quarterbacks to not have, I don't know, close to 5,000 yards and over 30 some touchdowns, and also team success factors in there as well. So this matchup this week is going to be huge. That Buffalo KC winner, people may start saying, okay, that's the MVP, but you have to have that big play moment that, Josh Allen had a bunch of them last year, on Monday Night
Yep.
Football.
Yep.
And we'll see if Taylor's able to keep up this pace. But as I was saying earlier, I always like that they have non-quarterbacks in the race because too often they just hand it to the
Yep.
top quarterback without even considering other positions.
Yep. You got a player prop or two to watch this weekend?
Yeah, I definitely think in terms of sacks, watch for Denver. I think they're going to get over 5 sacks in that game against the Texans. I think they're going to bring a lot of pressure. CJ Stroud has had problems all year in terms of his offensive line. So I'd watch that Denver defense and the number of sacks, number of pressures, and I think they're going to hit some high numbers there.
And because we didn't talk about this earlier in the week, I am curious. Uh, Game ball. I mean, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say you gave a little flower, a little love to Justin Fields.
There were a lot of good choices, but I went with Jonathan Taylor. I mean, he was just tremendous in that game. Q. He ran up and down the field on him, and I gave him my game ball, and he's having one of those seasons for the ages. So, yeah.
Black E. Did you give it to the NFL officiating crew?
No, a lot of people were texting me and calling me, and my dad who was watching that game said these guys need glasses, that sort of thing. But I went with Matt Eberflus and the Dallas Cowboys defense. He's their defensive coordinator. That unit was just terrible in that loss. They let up 44 points, losing 44-24, and the other team just ran up and down the field on Dallas Cowboys. So I gave it to Matt Eberflus.
All right, that's not bad. I can live with that. All right, don't forget you can capture us every Saturday and Sunday, 11 to 12 on NY48 WWON. We're powered by our good friends over at Fresh Roasted Coffee. 20% off your first purchase. Check the show notes. Check out the affiliate link, and don't forget follow Lloyd on social media at Lloyd Vance. Always check out the show Monday 8 to 9. Lloyd Vance's Insider Football. It's on X. It's on YouTube, SR1029 FM The Game. Give them a follow at Lloyd Vance. And as we always like to say, entertainment purposes for BYP, 1-800-GAMBLER. I also want to thank our good friends over at Play It Again Sports. 2 locations, 1450 Clemens Bridge Road in Deptford, New Jersey. And of course, the Mount Laurel store, which just opened up. And also, Get Ready with Tea, Three Brooks Bourbon. Jersey Shore Breaks getting set for their second season in March. So week 9 is among us. It's fast. It's absolutely furious. By the way, for those, we will talk a little more about this next week with the trade deadline. I guess we got a moment or two. Give me a team or two you think is going to be aggressive, whether buying or selling at the deadline.
Oh, Q. We already talked about the Philadelphia Eagles
Mm-hmm.
and Harry Roseman. He may be looking for some more pieces. They did let Mechie go. They may have another receiver come in the door, but I don't see them trading AJ Brown. Everybody's talking about that possibly happening, but Uh, Teams that going to be active.
By the way, apparently New England called and made an offer that was just a joke to the Eagles for
Right,
AD.
and they'll list. Every team's going to listen, but you're going to have to bring a lot of compensation, get a lot of these frontline guys. It'll probably be some minor deals out there, by the November 4th deadline. But definitely watch for like the Dallas Cowboys. They're talking about maybe trading for somebody because they have that money that they didn't spend on Micah Parsons and then some of the contenders. The Eagles, they got their DB, but maybe they want to go back and get some other help for the defensive line. They haven't been getting a lot of pressure. The Niners maybe have to go and help that defense that's so beat up out there. So a lot of pieces will be a movement, but in the end, I think there's a lot more talk around the NFL trade line than actual action.
Yeah, every team needs an upgrade with defense. I mean, we know that every team would love another edge rusher, pass rusher, helping the secondary. Offensively, who knows? I think, the name to watch locally with the New York teams, Hall with the Jets. Here, everyone's talking about maybe Thibodeau with the Giants. I don't really agree with it. I think you ride it out with those guys respectively. I think they can be core pieces for those franchises going forward. But it's right around the corner. Was it November 4th is the trade deadline?
It's Tuesday, November 4th at 4 o'clock. And
Right.
watch as well Miami. They could be sellers too because their season, especially if they lose this week, you may see Jalen Phillips, their good young defensive end, moving out. They're talking about Matthew Judon as well on their defense, possibly a trade piece.
All right, so there you have it. We ran through the gamut. Week 9 in the NFL, gave you a little around the league, gave you the Lackey in the game balls, which Lloyd does every Monday night. Lloyd Manson Insider Football 8 to 9. He joins me during the week on Q, and of course, during the football season right here on BYP Back Your Play. And again, special thanks to our good friends over at NY48 WWON. As we always like to say, my friend, we wish you the very best luck this weekend with your picks. But if you say it, you play it, Lloyd Vance. And if you back it,
you're going to stack it.
There you got it right there. There, that guy right there. All right. Hey, enjoy the games. As always, I appreciate a couple moments. We gratefully always love when you come on. Great insight. I know I'm going to catch up with you on Q as well, but always appreciate a couple moments, pal. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for having me on.
All right, there you have it. My guy, Lloyd Vance, does a fantastic job, and he knows how it is. Say it, play it, back it, stack it. There you got it. So with that being said, don't forget, check us out on the YouTube channel at Rich Q on Q, TikTok, Rich Q on the mic, IG, and of course on X at Rich Q on Q. And we have been powered by our wonderful friends over at Fresh Roasted Coffee. 20% off your first purchase, BYP 20. And of course, our wonderful friends, Saturday and Sunday, NY48 WWO, and check them out online. You can also download the app, stream on a budget. And of course, 11 to 12, that's where you catch us on Back Your Play. Everyone have a good sports weekend. We'll be back in the saddle Monday to Friday on Q, live 5 to 6. We go heavy on a Football Friday edition, 4 to 6. Typically, that's when you'll find us. And of course, during the week, we got a lot of other content going out there. Overseas Dimes, which is our hoops content, which really focuses on basketball overseas. We got Tropical Pets Ahora, which is a gambling show that's focused on what's going on in Latin and Central America, and of course the Caribbean. So with that being said, always appreciate the good folks over at NY48 WWON. Hope you guys enjoyed this edition of Back Your Play with Q. And as we always like to say, if you say it, play it, you're going to back it. You are certainly going to stack it. Good luck with your bets. Have a wonderful sports weekend. Be safe, be sound. We'll talk to you Monday on Q with myself, Rich Quiñones. Lloyd will join me, John Bueller, Jonathan Marshall as well, and former DB James Hasty later on in the week. We'll talk to you on Monday. Don't forget, connect with us. And as always, follow along right here on NY48 WWON. Be safe, be sound. I'm Rich Quiñones. Hasta luego, buen día.